and welcome to Tabletop 24. I'm Alan.
John.
And welcome to what is part 4 of the great Cull video of all of my collection. Yet again, we have got a load of games out on the table in front of us, and we're just going to go through them. Don's going to be my bit of conscience to try and trim down the collection, to try and get in some of the space for some of the new arrivals. I have, since our last video, managed to rearrange a little bit more space in here, so it's not as urgent as it once was, but it's still fairly urgent, is it not?
Yeah, there's a lot.
So, so we will just go through these like we did before, a little bit of brief on them, and what's going to happen with them as we go.
Okay, right. In front of me first, gizmos.
I like Gizmos. I think it's a really good engine builder. I think it stays mainly for its party gimmick, but I think there may be another or one or two types of games like this that comes out.
I enjoyed playing that. I like the marbles and stuff, and I like the little colour order stuff you have to do with it. It's a good little game.
Yeah, so I mean straight away that is going to be a keep, but it will be I think subject to if something better comes along for me.
Yeah,
I think it'll go straight out.
Yeah, I'll make a little bet with myself about which ones you'll keep and which ones you'll get rid of, and we'll see how true they come out as we go. Right, so second one up on the top, Elder Sign.
So Elder Sign hasn't seen enough play. There's a lot of expansions out there for it. I know it's not going to stay in the collection because I've not gone out and bought all the expansions. That's how I know it's not going to stick around. But I think I need to get a bit more out of it. It's got that Yahtzee mechanic with the dice roll in it, and I think I need to revisit it. But Arkham Horror, the card game, beats it hands down for that.
Well, I was going to say, given how much you've got of Arkham Horror, the card game, it's
it's a very different game. Yeah. Obviously, it's in the Eldritch thing, so that is going to be a keep. I ain't going to take this one upside down because it has got a really bad insert in it that I made. So.
Marvel Legendary, keeper.
This is a keeper purely on the basis that in our very first 24-hour event, this was one of the raffle prizes, and I won it. Not fixed by any means, but it was won on that, and that is my keepsake from that. I like the Legendary system. I like the Marvel version. I'm a little disappointed that they've not gone on from this and made a lot of expansions. I think there's 2 expansions, one that's in here, which is the Spider-Man Homecoming, I think it is, and they've done the Guardians of the Galaxy one, I believe, but they've not gone in any further into the cinematic universe. But given how much Legendary there is out there for Marvel, I think maybe they won't. But this stays around at least for the time being, just mainly for the keepsake.
Okay, sitting at the back, a trilogy of games.
It's your favourite trilogy, John?
Yeah, I love these. No, if you can see me, I'm shaking my head. Okay,
so obviously this is the Century series. So I personally think Spice Road is a very good game. I think Eastern Wonders was okay, and New World just didn't do too much. I now think I've got games in the collection that do all of these things better.
I would agree.
I think they're great games and really nicely produced as well from Plan B.
The Golem editions, when I've seen them, they look a lot better. I mean, it's a bit of a generic, for me, it's a bit of a generic theme, and I think they're all the same game, essentially.
Yeah, and I mean,
and when you put them all together, they're all the same game.
Yeah, for those that don't know, obviously in Century, that's a standalone game, but then once you've got Eastern Wonders, you can play Eastern Wonders on its own or play the 2 together.
Yes,
and then once you've got a New World, you can play a New World, each individual, or combine any mix of either or the whole lot
to the same game.
All it does is adds one mechanic from the game and changes it. Essentially, you are always changing cubes into other resources to get points.
Yeah,
and that is the crux of all 3 games. They all do it slightly differently, and I think they're very nice at how they do it. But I do think, as an overall, when you put them all 3 together, I think that was the big selling point, was putting them all 3 together. But I do actually think that there are games that do things that put stuff together better.
Yeah.
In a single package. So yeah, these are going to go.
You're not going to hear an argument from me. You really won't, unfortunately. Please keep... No, don't. King's Guild.
I really like this, and it's a really underrated game. It kind of flew under the radar. It was another Kickstarter. Again, this comes from the whole view of collecting stuff, making change and stuff. and you are part of the King's Guild, and you build up your guild, and you build up your ability to make armor and change it into things to sell to adventurers. And I think it does it really, really well. I think it just flew so far under the radar, and I will be keeping that around because I think it deserves a bit more playtime. Every deserves a bit more playtime here, but I think this one definitely does.
Yeah, and you should check out our other series of Would Play Again, where we discuss how often games get to the table.
So that is a keep, and I do want to get that back out.
So, Pandemic, Fall of Rome.
So you will have seen in the previous video we have the Legacy Pandemics, and I do think they're really good. This is the only single edition of Pandemic I own, and it's part of the Pandemic system. I think this does Pandemic really, really well. In it, you are the Roman Empire trying to expand from Rome while stopping the invading civilizations to stop them getting into you, which falls right into that push-pull mechanic of the Pandemic system exactly. The theme is good. It captures the theme of building the Centurions and marching them down the roads, and all roads lead to Rome, that type of thing. And I think it does it really well. I won't probably own another Pandemic outside of the Legacy game, so this one does stay.
Yeah, it makes a good point that the Pandemic system is almost a war game, like in its setup of what you do, and that, you know, the attacking and defending does work really well.
Yeah, and I think they've now finally announced that it's based on the Pandemic system. So we've had World of Warcraft that's come out, and we've just had something that's slipping my mind at this moment. But they've kind of adapted it, and we've had the Grain of Cthulhu, we've had Shallow Tide, is it? I think it is. There's one purely about water, so it's all based around the same sort of mechanics, but it was all a bit of a variant. I just really, really like that.
Yeah, Raccoon Tycoon.
I mean, 10 times fast. It's an auction economic game.
Yes,
and with very sort of anthropomorphized animals. So if you can see on there, you've got the animals that will look like people, and you're essentially building railways and taking stakes in railways to build buildings.
Getting shares, building up a stake, getting money from other people's actions.
As an economic game, it's actually quite light. It doesn't mean it's a light game, but it is quite light for an economic stance. And I think it does the push-pull with commodities getting cheaper and commodities getting higher. So buy low, sell high type mechanics. And you've got that extra bit where you're investing in the railways for set collection. I think that is going to be a keep. I could possibly see me getting rid of it in the future if something come along.
I mean, one of the games that probably on a bucket list of mine that I've not played and I would like to try and get is Power Grid, which is, you know, a heavy daddy of all economic games, really. So maybe something like that might overtake that in terms of replacements on the shelf.
Yeah, I missed Raccoon Tycoon when it came out on the Kickstarter, and I managed to pick that one up at retail, and it was I kicked myself for not getting the Kickstarter, but I was glad it was available, and it's a really nice economic game. It sort of fits that. I think it's an hour and a half type game, and I think it does it really, really well.
I'll just remind you, Alan, this isn't a one out, one in situation.
It is.
No.
Okay, so Artemis Project. Yet again, another one of those Kickstarters. I got this because it reminded me, I think it's Alien Frontiers. So dice placement mechanic based in there, where you're looking through, you're trying to build parts of the project in this new tundra planet, and you're trying to build under the water the projects that are going to help you survive as you go. This stays. The expansion's on its way. We did play on Tabletop Simulator with a really bad mod that I had to then go and get the actual game out to play properly. But it suits the theme really well. It's got those little, you've got the workers in the dropship where you shake it and drop them out. I just think it's really nice. It's really well produced as well. The Explorer tokens in there
sits on a nice weight level as well. I find playing it just hits that spot quite nicely. I feel. I do like it. Imperium Classics, Osprey Games.
So I really liked this when I played it, and this was, I'm going to say, I picked it up at 2021's UKGE. Now, Ben, who does a lot of our recording at the conventions,
hello Ben.
He picked up the legends because he was banging on about it, and it was something that caught my eye because there's the legends and the classics. The legends is like Arthurian legends, Atlantis. The classics are like the Romans and the Greeks and those types of civilization. Yeah. So you've got the two, then you can mix and match them. The learning curve on this game is high. Every faction is asymmetric. It's engine building, which I love. There is a solo game, which is really good, but there's a really high ceiling to it. And I think for that reason, I've not brought it out in our game group, and there's a very good reason for that, in the sense that it's probably a 40-minute teach if to get everybody at the table to understand it, unless you are all on the same page with how this is going to work. And essentially, all it is at the end of the day is just cards and a couple of tokens. There's nothing absolutely...
He's not wrong.
There's nothing absolutely strange about the game, but the mechanics of way things work, you kind of need to... It's one of those games where you need to know everything in order to do well. If you don't know everything, you could make a mistake very early on. With that in mind, this is going to go. There is another version of this out at the minute, and I like them, but I just think, knowing as well that Benji's got the other version, if I ever got an itch to play it, I know where it is. So this is on its way out, unfortunately.
Yep, that's one of my bets. One. I thought you might say you wanted to get rid of that one. Cryptid.
I really like Cryptid. It was nominated for the Spiel this year, and I think it's very unique in what it does. There is a bit in here though that you can very quickly, just by luck, win the game. Because you are basically pointing at the board and either asking everybody, does this match something, or you're asking somebody, is it there? And quite quickly you're building up a bit of knowledge about the other people's clues that they've got that tell them where the cryptid might be. Very sort of abstract in how it sort of plays, but it does it very well. But that luck of, and I remember we played a game and I went, is it there? And everybody around the table, yeah, it can be there, yeah, it can be there, yeah, it can be there, yeah, it can be there. And it just happened that it was there. Turn 2.
Yeah.
In what would normally be a 30-turn game.
Yeah.
And
then we played it and we didn't find it. Between 6 of us, I think it was.
Yeah, and there is this bit that everybody at the table's got to be clued up and really on it with what their clues are.
You can't be drunk playing them.
No. Because if you kind of misinterpret one of your clues, you could, and this is what happened in that game, is it completely offset the whole game because the person with that clue thought it was something slightly different. When actually, I think it was something like it has to be X spaces away from a mountain, and they thought it had to be X spaces close to a mountain.
Yeah,
and that throws off the whole dynamic of the game. So you've all got to be really, really bought into it. And I really like it.
There is another game that plays in a similar way called Tobago, where you're looking for treasure and you're hunting treasure on a map against other people, and it's the clues, you have to solve the clues of what isn't there to find the things, and it's almost a race to find things. Plays quite similar to this, but rather than being the cooperative element of it, you're against each other. Yeah. And I did play that in London, the Games Cafe in Haggerston with Sam, and I was very, very drunk. And yes,
exactly right. And I think the other thing is, I'm just confirming, it is minimum of 3 players.
Yeah,
which most of the time we are playing with 3 players, but you've got to start at 3, and you have to have 3 because if you don't have 3, the books don't work.
You have to be on it. You have to be really focused and sharp. It's a high concentration level needed.
Yeah, and I think for that, it's the second Osprey game that's gonna go.
Yeah,
I really like it.
Not a bad game though. Not a bad game.
I think it's a really nice experience, and I'm really grateful for the experiences we had around the table with it. But I think,
in terms of a table presence, it works really well. In terms of the interaction with everybody, because you're questioning what each other's doing, it works really well. In no way getting rid of it says that it's a poor game in any way, shape or form.
No, I think I'm just, where that game sits for me, I think I'm just past past where it needs to be.
Okay, King of Tokyo Dark Edition at the front.
Okay, so this video will come out after we've done our would play again for King of Tokyo. The Dark Edition is
Link in
lovely.
the description below.
Is lovely. That just means I've got to put it in after the video. It's lovely, and it's a nice version. I wouldn't necessarily own both. Spoilers for that video if you haven't already watched it. Yeah, we'll play again. I absolutely think it's very light in what it does. You got a little bit of gamery stuff in there in this edition, and I think it's games you can play at a party or at a gathering of people, and it's not you don't have to go to a game night to play it.
Yeah, and it's a non-gamers game. Yeah. Easily picked up, easily playable, and it's one of those ones where you do play with non-gamers. Like they're all, I want to play this again, and it's lovely. Nice version.
That stays.
Nice version. Triple Soro.
Okay, so I'm going to cut your chest on this. I'm going to keep all three of these. So you've got Soro, Soro of the Seas, and Soro Phoenix Rising. Now, all of them are essentially tile placement games, abstract tile placement games. There's some theme in mythology placed on each of these, but they're all doing things slightly different. I picked up Soro of the Seas to complete the collection when I backed Soro Phoenix Rising. Going back to it now, if I didn't have Seas, I wouldn't be upset. But I will keep it part of the set. And we've done a We'll Play Again for Sora. And I mean, look how battered that box is because it's so well played. These two, not so much. Mainly because when the first time I introduced this to people, we played it wrong. It fell flat because we played it wrong. There's bits in this one where you'll be rolling dice to move the kaiju around to stop your sink boats, essentially. But we were rolling constantly rather than rolling once and moving everything. So, yeah, that was a bit difficult when we played that.
Too punishing, didn't it?
Yeah. It's not that punishing, and it is a nice game, and it is a slight step up from Soro, and I think it's nice. And Soro Phoenix Rising adds that plus 10. So in this one, you are laying the tiles exactly as you would before, but instead of following a route, you can get to the end of a route, and then you stop, and on your next turn, you flip that tile or rotate that tile. So you're constantly making changes, and you're picking up these lanterns, which gain you stars, which then lead you to the end game. Very different game. I love all three of these, and they're not really going to go anywhere because they all offer something slightly different. If I could, I'd probably amalgamate them into one box, but then I can't get rid of my boxes. So
no. I mean, again, a non-gamers game. Anybody can pick up this, and again, it's easy played. You know, after dinner, port and cheese around the table playing that. It's almost that kind of feel to it.
With Soro of the Seas, you can play Soro of the Seas just like you can play normal Soro. So again, I'd probably say if you're going to get one of the Soros, go with Soro of the Seas, purely on the basis that it does exactly what this does, but a little bit more, and you can strip the rules out for that.
Yeah,
as well. So all three of them stay, and
thought you might be keeping those.
Yeah.
Azul.
I really like Azul. It's really, really nice abstract game. So you're placing tiles on your wall and letting tiles fall to the shop floor that you don't want. Picking up groups of tiles from the factory. I think it does everything it needs to do and more. We've talked a bit on some of our We'll Play games about gateway games and entry games, and this has a bit of a learning curve to it. But because of the production quality of some of the materials in it, the ease of actually what you're doing on your turn, it's very easy for a lot of people to pick it up. Now, I only have Azul. I don't have any of the other variants. I don't think I'd bother to pick those up. Azul doesn't scream to me, play me all the time. But we just mentioned port and cheese type game.
Yeah.
This is very much that sort of after dinner type game with friends, potentially gamers, non-gamers. It's what I would have brought out for couples gaming. Very much so. It's how I've introduced a number of people to it. It's lovely at what it does. It looks really nice. It's an abstract game, so people that have played checkers, chess, that type of thing, they're gonna like it. So
yeah, I mean, like you say, it spawned many sequels and other versions. It's a bit of a behemoth, and everybody knows the name as all. It's one of those ones that's jumps out at people as one of those games that's at the top of lists of people.
Yeah,
all the time, and for good reason.
Yeah,
good game.
So Azul Stave,
haven't played it enough.
No, and I think that is its negative. We don't see it enough because we're playing so many different games.
Yeah, and I think they'll all, to its detriment, there'll always be other games that will pull off the shelf before it.
Yeah, and I think that's it. For me, it fits a really nice niche place that abstract games that I can go to that are a little bit more than Sorrow.
Yeah,
but yeah, it doesn't come off the shelf nearly enough.
Okay, Firelight.
This is a really nice guilty pleasure, and I think there's a part of me that begrudges the economics of getting rid of this one. This is another Kickstarter, a little known Kickstarter, and it was from Australia, and I think I paid something like £28 shipped, all in with all the Kickstarter extras.
It's a good price for that.
For what it is, and you've played it a couple of times. Yes. And in it, you are building your spaceship. So anybody that's played Galaxy Trucker, you're building that. Your parts don't fall off it as easy on this one, though. And you're trying to build an efficient engine for that allows you to go on missions. One of the nice mechanics in this is when an engine card gets drawn in the market, you roll a dice, and that dice is assigned to that card, and that's how powerful that engine is. Every round, all of the dice that are still on engines in the market get re-rolled. So the market's constantly changing, and there's a lot of different parts in there that change everything. And whilst you're shooting the moon to get on the end mission, there are other things that you can do to get points in it, which I just think is really nice. It plays in about 40-50 minutes for what it is, and you could probably play it really quick. I think it goes up to 5 players. Even at 5 players, you could play that really nicely.
Yeah.
Production quality is okay. It's not.
It's cards and dice.
Yeah, it's not going to do that. The dice are really nice, little orange dice, and just give that sort of feel. And that's a nice little engine style dice. And I think there are a lot of other games that I would get out before this. But if you've got a gamer that has played a lot of games and a lot of engine builders, I bring this out for them because they haven't seen that, and that's why I brought it along to our game group, because it's not, nobody else has seen this. It's flown so far under the radar that
I like that about it, that it's not so. I mean, we played this a good couple of times, and it's a good game, and the fact that you can bring it out and other people are like, what's that? And it's easily picked up. It's easy to play. It's easy to get completely wrong. But yeah, it's a good little game.
Yeah, like I say, it's a little bit of a guilty pleasure because, again, I don't really want to get rid of it because I ain't going to make my money back on that for what I paid for it.
Yeah.
And I like it. I really do. So that stays. Really not rude, Danny.
Right, the big ones are coming next.
They're staying on the table.
Scythe. The legendary box. Look at it. The only thing, am I right in thinking, the only thing that's missing from this box are the metal minis?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this has every promo that you can get hold of, all of the expansions, the extra maps. The only other thing it hasn't got is the large board.
Okay.
Board extinction, purely because, and the playmat, because I don't know.
Again, so I am wrong then.
So you are wrong, yeah. So no, the extra modular board, no, not the modular board, it has got the modular board, the extra side of the board that makes it a really large game, and the playmat and the diecast miniatures, which actually are probably the end of everything. But gameplay wise, it's got absolutely everything in it. I've 3D printed a really nice insert to go in there. It works really well. I've doubled up on all the coins, so there's a load of coins in there, a load of resources in there. So it's got all of the upgraded resources that came that were available.
It's a completed box.
And I played it once. My copy. I've played other people's copy a lot, and I'm in a group at the minute going through Rise of Fenris. But yeah, my copy I've only played once.
Yeah, it is. It feels more like a race game to me than it does. I think it's more. But people can see this as a war game, and it's not a war game. It's more of a race game for me. I don't mind Scythe, but I think there's other games I would rather play.
You've been on the fence a lot about Scythe.
Yeah,
and I think potentially it's because of the first couple of times you played it,
Possibly.
the last time you played it, you really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it more than I had before.
Yeah,
I'm not going as far as saying really enjoyed it.
but for me, I like it. I really like what it's trying to do. I like there is a race in there, and only in my last couple of plays have I realised that actually to win the game you have to win the race.
Yeah.
It's not. I started off as an engine builder because you're looking at improving your board, getting the spaces on the board to make sure you can produce enough, and that's where I realised I was going wrong.
Yeah.
The point you realise it's a race game.
Yeah, efficiency. Do the maximum in the least amount of moves to win it is the way I look at playing this.
So that stays in the collection, mainly because I can't afford the shipping on it because of the weight of it. No, I just
collections only.
Yeah, it is a really nice game. It's really nice to have everything in one box, and yeah, I think it's a cracking experience from that.
I'm not picking it up because I put them back out.
Yeah.
So Dresden Files.
Another guilty pleasure, mainly because I like the Dresden Files novels, and they're written by Jim Butcher, and I've been reading them since they very first came out, and I like them. I like the novels. The gameplay is okay. The components are all right. There's a lot of reprinted artwork in there, and they use a lot of the artwork from the graphic novels that came off the back of the books themselves. I like the gameplay. In other people's collections, it probably would have gone. I think solo, it sings really well. 2-player, it sings really well. Anything more than that, I think you can get lost in it quite easily. It's more of a puzzle in there. You play a book, and when you play the book, you have to do the cards in a certain order, or there'll be obstacles where you can't interact with other cards. Further cards away costs you.
It's almost like a fighting fantasy book.
Yeah, but you modulise it, and it's a little bit different each time, and you've got some dice that will help you get to where you need to be with different things. And I just think overall it's an average game, but because of the IP that's attached to it, I've got all the expansions in there as well. So there were some extra expansions because when this was released, I think there was only like 8 or 9 books released, and now there's some circa 16, 17. So they've slowly brought out extra packs to accommodate those books, which obviously means there's clearly a market for it. And I do see that it pops up on a lot of content creators' top hundreds, and I think it does sit in there for me. But again, it's the IP that probably does that more than anything else. So that stays.
So we've got rid of 1 so far.
No, we got rid of technically 5.
Okay.
But it depends on whether you class Century as 1 or 3.
Okay, that's 3. Okay. Smartphone Ink.
Smartphone Ink. Again, Kickstarter. What this does is fantastic. It's area control, economic manipulation.
It's a good game. I said lovely game for a couple.
Played in secret. We took it to Aircon last year, and we sat down. There's loads of people coming over and looking at it. It's got a really nice table present. It's got that whole sort of white tech feel to it.
Dual layer board, so you don't move about, which is nice.
Which is really fantastic in there. And
there's take that element to it as well, where you can block people out.
But it's not directly take that. It's almost hate draft in the sense of I'm going to go there so you can't.
Yeah.
It benefits me to go there, so it's not like I'm doing it just to stop you.
I need to go there to get the maximum points, and it's also going to put me over points over you. So I'm definitely sorry, Ben.
And the way that you set this up is you have 2 pads that you start the game with, and you have to lay them across each other in order to, and whatever you get visible is what you then can use. And there's different icons, and they're double-sided, and you can mix and match them. So everybody can come up with different combinations.
And you can enhance that with other things as you're going through the game.
Yeah.
As you unlock bits to give you more power and more elements to your phone apps.
And then you use those to set the scene of, right, how much can I develop technology? How much can I ship? How much can I produce? What's my price? And you could go all out and set your price to the lowest, and you go first into every area that you can get to. But then you've got to produce enough. So there's a really fine balance between what you produce versus what you sell at. But you can have some really unique technologies that nobody else has got, and you can set your prices whatever you want because you know you're going to get it.
Yeah.
So but you can only set that price based on what you've got on your pads. So if you've not picked up technologies that allow you to increase your price, you can't increase your price.
It looks really heavy, but it's not, is what I would say about it. I don't think it's that heavy at all.
I'm fairly sure you rolled your eyes when you got it out of the box.
No, it was one of those, and you know, you look at some games and you think, here we go. 40 minutes each, and you know, after an hour and a half, you've switched off because you know there's another hour and a half to go. This plays really well, really quickly. It looks nice. I think this is a cracking game. I really do think this is a cracking game.
Yeah, I want to try the mobile markets, which is the card version.
Right,
and then it may be that the card version does for me, and it's super.
That's what I know. Some people say they prefer card versions of other games more. And one of those is Cull Express, but I would always play the proper game Cull Express than I would over the card game. I think there's more to it, and I'd like to think there'd probably be more to benefit to having this on the table and playing it than the card version. Great game.
Yeah, cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Again, another heavy one. We've got a heavy shelf today. Don't break the table, John.
My father's work.
So one of the latest arrivals from us, again, another Kickstarter. Obviously
Shiny.
Picked up all the big box Kickstarters. Really well produced, possibly overproduced. It's app-driven Euro game, and it's really unique at what it's trying to do. I only played it once so far, so I've played one of the 3 stories. I'm going to use stories, settings, campaigns, however you want to term modules, which we probably only covered a third of what the possible outcomes were. So I'm really keen to get it back to the table, but my downside from it at the moment was the stories trying to trip over the gameplay. You spend more time reading story than you are playing the game. Now, some people might like that, and I normally like a bit of story in my games. I like enough in there, but when I'm stopping every 5 minutes to read story, I'm not getting on with. I've forgotten what I'm planning in my game. So I really like it. I think it's really well produced. I want to give it a bit more chance, and I think it needs at least all 3 of the modules played through with the different storylines.
Yeah,
and then possibly revisiting at least one of them. But I think the first time we played it, it was 3 hours. So it's whether it's on a longer end of the spectrum. It's potentially getting it out to try that. But I think the gameplay in it is absolutely fantastic.
there are some games you need to buy in, and you need to have the right group of people to buy into the narrative to play the game. And this is probably one of those that sits within that, and you need the right people with you to play it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not a casual drop-in game at all. You need people you know will enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a D&D group of people who are willing to, role play, whatever. It's that kind of
thing. And then finally, I think it's the biggest box on the table as we started, and this is only one of several boxes. So Batman, Gotham City Chronicles. This is the
holy Kickstarter Batman.
Yeah, this is the hero pack. There is a villain box just the same size. There is 2 expansions, which is slightly smaller. There are 3 shorter expansions that are up here, plus a couple of extra miniatures. I still don't own everything. The season 3 Kickstarter is still in production, and I have backed that because that's got the solo campaign in it. I'm a big Batman fan, and that's the only reason I picked this up to start with. Didn't really even look into too much of the rules. And if anybody's read the rule book, they will agree with me. It's awful, and it has been rewritten for the latest Kickstarter. It's a skirmish type game, which I'm not normally into. The minis are fantastic in this.
And I'm going to say you're going to keep it.
And I will keep it. I think I've invested too much in it now not to. The one time I've played it, I did enjoy it. But you have to know going into it that you've got a lot to learn.
Right.
And when I played again, I think I played against Brian, and we played it with the versus stack. So we didn't play the standard way. So the standard way to play this is one villain, 3 or 4 heroes, and that way it's like one versus many, and each of you plays a whole hero, and you're more powerful than the sum of my minions. But the way me and Brian played it was we both had the versus boards, which essentially we've both got a river of tiles that allow us to play in our own order, and we both play with a lot of characters. So it plays very differently, and I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to try the silo mode because that's where I think I get the most value out of it. But it's a lot to get out of the box. I've got a nice, again, another 3D printed insert in here, but even with that, it still takes a long time to set up.
Yeah.
And each mission, you can only use a certain number of heroes or certain specific heroes. So you need to choose which heroes you want to play. If you want to play, Batman's in most of them, of course, but if you want to play, I don't know, Azrael, for instance, then there's only a few in there that you can specifically pull out. So for me, it lacks a little bit of that versatility of, let's say, Zombicide.
Yes.
Where you can just get that out and play it.
Yeah.
You're not having to mix and match characters and stuff like that. I think if I said I probably had 300 miniatures for this, I don't think I'd be exaggerating by any means. So that just gives you the scope of where it is. I think it's really well produced. I think there's a lot of it, and it takes up a lot of space on the shelves. But because of the IP and my hope that season 3 will be a really good addition, it stays in the collection for now.
Yeah. Minis style over substance. Yeah. One of the Simon, just let's put out loads of minis and people will buy them.
Yeah. So
it's not saying you're a sucker for buying it, but
it was a completely gratuitous purchase that I picked up because of the IP, and there's no two ways about that. And I knew that it was going to be well manufactured. I think it's Monolith that made it, and I think it's a really well produced game. I think the issue is with the rule set.
Yeah.
They tried to use the Conan rules, which weren't great in the best of times, and then they've tried to add all these gadgets into it that just overloaded the rule set. So that is this section. We still have a couple more to go. Right. Yeah, so 6 maybe. 6. Yeah, but I think it's going to be 6. I think we've still got a couple of bits to do. So thank you for watching along for this series. We will do a recap at the end of it all. If you haven't done so already, check out other videos on the channel. Give us a like and a subscribe, and we will catch you next time. Take care.
Bye-bye.